we open today's episode set to break a record that I really did not hope to break in any of my franchise series in any game ever. As you can see, we are now at the last game of the season. This is a game that we will be watching. And typically, when I've simulated through the season, I like to go through the box scores of the wins. Well, that's something that we don't have to do today, as we ended last episode on March 9th and have since lost every single game up until the last game of the season. And if you recall, the reason I wanted to play the Pistons is we had them trade for Giannis at the trade deadline. I did not want to play the Pistons because I thought it was going to be a good, fun game that we could win. I just wanted to see the best team in the league. And if we don't win today, we will have the most losses in NBA history. The record for the most losses in an NBA season is 73, which we are at right now. That record was set by the 1972-73 Philadelphia 76ers. So if we do not win today, we will officially be the worst team in NBA history. Now, we're already tied for the worst. We can't avoid that. But if we lose today, we will sit alone atop the throne of worst teams in NBA history. You take a look here. We have lost 19 straight games. Our winning percentage isn't even at 10%. This team is horrible. But will we be single-handedly the worst team in NBA history? Let's hop into this Pistons game and find out. So here we are, officially about to play the game that will determine whether or not we will be the sole possessors of the worst season in NBA history. And we're going to get things started with getting absolutely stuffed. Then on the other end, we're going to give a practically a warm-up jumper to Cade. So not exactly the start you're hoping for, but kind of the start you expect from an 8-73 team, but a nice pick and roll between Brown and Lowry there. Gets us on the board. Kawhi. Step back three. Finds his way home for him. Bruce Brown picks up a steal from Cade. And today's clips of this game are going to be a little bit shorter than we've been doing for the most part this season, as there's a lot of other stuff I want to do in today's episode. As that's a nice pick and roll there, slammed in by A.C. Stevens. Giannis. Tough shot, hits it. It's a tough man to stop in that area of the court and has made this Pistons team a tough one to stop in general. Turnover there. And the Pistons take advantage of it with the fast break points. Turn around. Post shot is swatted away by Stevens. Beautiful help defense there. On the other end, Stevens gets the slam dunk as well. Up to now 6 points as we're more than 5 minutes into this game. Cade responds with a nice three. Brown out to a wide open Jalen Johnson. He hits a three. It feels like it's been a while since we've seen like a good Jalen Johnson game. Going the other way, Bruce Brown left wide open top of the key, and he makes the Pistons pay. Keeping it to just a one-possession game so far. Cade off glass, just gets it over the hands of Stevens. That was very close to being blocked. And then the cutter by Sidney Lowry gets him a slam dunk. Leonard taking Zaire Williams in the post and shooting over the top of him. Leonard with it again, this time passing it inside to Nick Richards for the flush. Duncan Robinson enters the game, and he's going to shoot early and often. That's what he does, and he is quite good at it. Giannis off the dribble three. He responds. Not nearly as known for his marksmanship, but he can hit the occasional three. Robinson gets another clean look at it and gets another make. Step back, look for Lowry. Got the space. Beautiful shot by him. Minute and a half left. Pistons up by just one, but they're going to extend it a little bit there with that mid-ranger from Cade. Going for the oop. Now that's stolen by Baldwin. Robinson. Can he go all the way? Yes, he can. The lefty layup to finish the drive. And now under 10 seconds left in the quarter. We can tie it, and that's exactly what Baldwin does. We're going to be tied, barring a successful half-court shot here, with the Pistons after one. This team doesn't want to be the worst team in history. I mean, we're already tied, but when you're tied with somebody, at least, you know, it's not just you. Somebody else has been as bad as you before, right? And it looks like this team is motivated to make that happen. But Derek Jones rebounds his own miss and finds a wide open Sadiq Bey. Baldwin. Tough shot, and he's a couple of those in this game. Ivy, pick and roll, finds Derek Jones, and that was a beautiful flush. Right on top of the head of Bruce Brown. Tried his hardest, but Derek Jones is, you know, put some posters on a few guys' heads throughout his career. This time he gets the steal and finds Sadiq Bey in transition. Pistons starting to build a bit of a run here to start this second quarter. Jones had a shot underneath, instead chose to get the extra point with Kawhi Leonard. Stevens. That's an and one. Flush. Guarded by Derek Jones Jr. That is absolutely a mismatch in our favor. And the three-point play is completed by the young rookie center. Kawhi from the mid-range. That's his spot, but it won't go this time. But his friend Giannis on the boards. This Pistons team is insane. The Bucks were not a team that I was expecting to blow up this early in a franchise, but the fact that they were tied for the second lowest record at the deadline with Giannis having a healthy season was just so incredibly surprising. And man, this turned out really well for him. This Pistons team is gnarly, man. There's really no weak spot in their starting lineup except for Nick Richards. The other four guys are all really talented guys. Giannis mismatched with Zaire Williams in the post and gets the easy deuce. Double-digit lead for the Pistons. Trying to extend it by AC Stevens there on the block, but another offensive rebound for Giannis. Pistons lead by a dozen. Inside, nice fake by Stevens to get Giannis in the air. Cade. Isolating against Sidney Lowry. Very good perimeter defender, but Cade, a very good isolation player. Giannis. I don't know how we keep getting him mismatched on Zaire Williams. Here it is again in another basket. Lowry spinning. Trying to hit a tough shot to end the second quarter, but it's not going to go in. And we only have 40 points in the first half. Just 13 scored in the second. That's probably the lowest point outage in the first half we've seen from this team. And spoke maybe a little bit too soon there after the first quarter, saying that this team wanted to not be the worst team in NBA history. Or, you know, maybe they do, but it's just too tough of an ask for them to beat this Pistons squad. I mean, their defensive abilities with Kawhi and Giannis, and Cade's got great size for point guard. I mean, just a very tough team to score, and as has been evidenced by in this game, man. Off the miss, Giannis slams it home. I mean, just with this great defense and then their transition ability, I think the Pistons have to be the favorite for the title this season. Can we make a 15-point comeback? Make that a 17-point comeback here? To be honest, I don't even know if we're going to score 17 points in the rest of this game the way this offense has been looking. Giannis, down low, just bullies Jalen Johnson. Doesn't even need the mismatch against Zaire. And another transition basket for Detroit. So lethal in transition is this team. Cade Cunningham left open for three and hits it. All of a sudden, 24 points. AC Stevens with a beautiful shot from the post fadeaway deep mid-range, but that's the kind of shot that we need to hit to score on this team right now, which is absolutely insane. As Giannis muscles through another offensive rebound and the and one opportunity, which he finishes off. Fisher gets a good look on the inside and hits it. First time I think we've called his name today, and he's going to get another look here, and he's going to get another layup. Fighting for us here. Cade puts it back up to 24-point lead for the Pistons. Trying to go with AC Stevens, but he missed the dunk. And then on the other end, one more bucket here from Giannis, and it was clear that this team indeed was going to end up being the worst team. So we would just simulate the last quarter of this game, take our medicine, and accept the fact that we've officially broken the NBA record for single season losses with 74. We lost 74 times this season, man. Thorpe was horrible. 1 for 8 at center is trash. Something that we didn't do last season, but I do want to do this season, is have the stats and awards in this episode, especially because that game was only for 3 quarters. I put, stats awards in the lottery and draft preview episode last time, and it ended up being a pretty long episode, so I think it'll be better to do the stats and awards right here to end this one off. And the draft preview next episode is going to be pretty long. Last season we had clips for 3 players, of course the big 3 in that class. This year I'm currently at 12 players with clips. Might get more prior to that episode, might not, so it'll be a little bit more of an extended draft preview. I'm excited for it. I hope you are too. So let's hop into the stats and awards though for season 2, the 2025 NBA season. And Luka Doncic wins MVP. He's overpowered in this game. It needs to be fixed because it's crazy. And yes, I know Luka's good, and Luka's in the MVP conversation in real life, but I mean, it's just a little bit too much sometimes, if you ask me at least. He just kind of, I guess last season was a little bit more OP than this season, but career high in rebounds each of the last 2 years, his 2 best by a mile. His assists, his 2 best by a mile. Steals, tied for his best, and then his best by a mile. Points, his first and his 3rd best in his entire career. Field goal percentage, his 2 best by a mile. 3-point, his 2 best by a long shot. So he's just a little bit too much in the game, and I think he needs to be toned down a bit. But and he's winning MVP every year, which just, he hasn't won an MVP yet. He shouldn't be somebody that's winning the MVP every single year in the game. Darren Anthony does win Rookie of the Year. I think that's fair, having him over Sidney Lowry. Sidney Lowry did outscore him, of course, but it wasn't super efficiently. And then between the rebounds and the assists and the blocks, Darren Anthony led him very comfortably in rebounds and blocks, and even had him a little bit in assists. So I think Anthony winning that award. It was between Anthony and Lowry at the top of the draft, but Lowry being the hometown kid, we obviously went with him. But who knows? Maybe down the road we could see that Darren Anthony ends up being the better player. Amen Thompson wins your 6th man of the year for the Houston Rockets with 13-5-5. Yeah, that's pretty good production off the bench. It's insane that he's a bench player. Nicholas Claxton wins your Defensive Player of the Year with 3.2 blocks a game and 1.2 steals. 4.5 stocks is pretty nuts with 11.5 rebounds. Shaedon Sharpe is your Most Improved. 16 points, 4 rebounds, and an assist. Anthony Edwards was the most clutch this year. I think he was second or third in the league in scoring. J.B. Bickerstaff of the Cleveland Cavaliers wins Coach of the Year, and the Cleveland Executive wins Executive of the Year as well. Switching gears now to All-NBA teams, we had Luka, of course, already talked about him. Nikola Jokic is 24, 12, and 10 on 54% from the field, 40% from deep. And just like compare, like Jokic isn't like, these are insane numbers too, but he's actually had these in the past, which is why I don't mind them. You know what I mean? Like, I'm fine with a player putting up insane stats if they're the stats he's been actually putting up. And that's just not the case with Luka. But enough about me complaining about Luka in 2K. It's been 2 years now where he's been that way. John Morant, you could argue, is kind of the same, where his 2 best years scoring pretty easily are here in simulation, as well as his assists per game. And he's just kind of been in that MVP conversation too. But because he doesn't win it every year, I'm not as mad about it. He also plays significantly more per game, which could also be the case with Luka. I actually didn't look at Luka's minutes. No, yeah, he's playing pretty much the same minutes. So SGA here with 31, 5 and 8 on 53% from the field, 35% from deep, nearly. And then Giannis on the Pistons, first team All-NBA. I am very excited to see what's probably inevitably gonna be Cleveland Cavaliers versus Detroit Pistons series in these playoffs. Who wins that series is gonna be something to behold. Evan Mobley, second team All-NBA, gonna be facing off against Giannis in that series. 17, 13, and 3 with 2.5 blocks and a steal. His field goal percentage has dipped for the 3rd consecutive year, though. LeBron, even at his old age, I had to override his retirement last year because he was playing still at an insane level. His field goal percentage did drop below 50% for the first time in, well, like the only time in the last 5 years. So, and his points were down, but I mean, he's gonna retire this season, and you know it's okay. You can't override it more than once, but like with stats like these, I would still, if I had the opportunity, I would override his retirement one more year. Dame on the Heat, 29 points per game, 5 rebounds, 6.5 assists, shooting 49% from the field. Big dip in his 3-point efficiency from last year, though. LaMelo, 22, 6, 8.5 with 1.2 steals on 47%, 38 from deep. Then Edwards, 29.6 points per game, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.7 steals is very high up there on 52%. From a guard, it's pretty nuts. He's another guy who, the 2 years in 2K, his field goal percentage is way better than anything he's shown thus far in his career. 3-point percentage isn't super far off what he's shown, though. And then, third team All-NBA, Tyrese Halliburton, the point guard for the Rookie of the Year, Darren Anthony, with 21 and 10 and 1.5 steals a game, nearly 49% from the field and over 41% from 3. Garland, point guard for the Cavaliers, 23.5 and 9 with 1.2 steals, shooting awesome from the field. Joel Embiid, he is very much so down from his 3 seasons in a row scoring 30 plus points per game, but he's still averaging those 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, still shooting efficiently. It just looked like his minutes dipped this season. Steph, 29, 4, 5, 51% and 43% from deep. And then Giddey, 21 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists. A guy that can impact the game all over the place. Not a great 3-point shooter, but he's definitely a good playmaking big guard for Thunder. Defensive team. I'm gonna override this every year. Again, it's hard for 2K to judge, defense because they don't have like the advanced stats. I'm just gonna put some actual good defenders here. This is much better. Luka is not an all defensive first team player. That's ridiculous. Edwards and SGA aren't really either, if we're being honest. But I don't care. I don't even hate Luka. This feels like I hate Luka when we keep complaining about this. I just hate how Luka is portrayed in the game. I think Luka's a perfectly fine player. And but anyway, here, all rookie first team: Darren Anthony, Lynn Montgomery, Sidney Lowry, the big three that we expected coming out of the draft, AC Stevens, and then Vic Rhodes, who is somebody that I really liked as well. Second team is Calbert Blunt. I don't know. Calbert. I'm going to say Calbert because it's fancier. Chucky Washington, Guillermo Rodriguez was somebody that I think I was wrong on in the pre-draft process. More that our scouting report was wrong on him. He actually was one of the better players in this draft. Darius Floyd and Cedric Thorpe. So we got 3 players on the all-rookie team between the 2 of them in this draft. Now, of course, we're not in the playoffs. The playoffs will be part of last episode. But I do want to go through and talk about what everybody on the team did. Sidney Lowry kind of turned things on later in the season. His production increased. Got himself over 18 points a game, 3.5 rebounds, and nearly 4 assists. 0.8 steals, 0.2 blocks for 1 stock a game. Assist to turnover ratio is not very great. Shot 43% from the field on 15 attempts, which led the team by a lot, and just under 35% from 3. I think compared to what I was expecting, this is honestly pretty close. I thought maybe he'd be more like a 4 and 5 guy. He's a 3.5 and 4 guy, so a little bit. But scoring wise, I think I would have projected something pretty close, like maybe 36% from 3 and like 45% from the field. But like overall 18 points a game is pretty much kind of what I expected from him. And definitely, even though, you know, this team was atrocious this year, I'm not putting that on him, and I'm still very excited about his future. AC Stevens actually went down a little bit as the year went along. I think he was closer to 15 points per game before. I think those 8 games where he had to come off the bench because he was injured probably hurt that. Probably hurt his field goal percentage as well, as he was up around 51% prior. 7.7 rebounds, 1.1 assists, a steal, a block. Had more turnovers than assists. That's not his game. That's fine. Would like to see him over 50%, but like I said, for the most of the year, when he was healthy and kind of on a roll earlier, he was at that mark. Bruce Brown, 10.3 points per game, 3 and 3.7, a steal, 0.6 blocks, 2 turnovers, shot 44% from the field and 31% from 3. Not great, but I think he's still, you know, a really solid player. Missed some time this year, missed about 15 games. And he is on an expiring deal. Let's bring up contract because I want to talk about the deals for a lot of these guys. Whether or not I bring him back, I'm not entirely sure, because if you take a look at kind of the 2 and the 3 spot, we have a lot of guys there. We have Sidney Lowry, Moses Moody, Zaire Williams, and Patrick Baldwin. And then we also have Bruce Brown. And then, you know, we might draft somebody. So that spot, like kind of that 2-3, that wing spot, is definitely the most crowded spot we have on the team. And so you could argue that letting Bruce Brown go wouldn't be the worst thing, but he's also, if we let him go within 2 years, you know, our first 3 picks from the expansion draft would all be off the team. And that's not the worst thing ever, but I would like to maybe not lose Bruce Brown for nothing. So I'm still kind of half and half on whether or not I want to bring Bruce Brown back. If you have any opinions on that, be sure to let me know in the comments. The last person to average double-digit points this season is Patrick Baldwin, and he averaged in just 18.5 minutes, 10 points, 3.5 rebounds, and assist. Assist to turnover wasn't great or anything. Shot 42% from the field. From 3, he shot 36%. And he will be in the running for Surprise Player of the Year. I should probably be talking about that as we go through the stats. AC Stevens and Patrick Baldwin, I would say, are both in the running. I thought about halfway through the year that AC Stevens was going to run away with it, but he kind of, like I said, did go down in the second half. So it's a little bit murky right now, but these 2 are definitely in the race. Cedric Thorpe averaged 9 points per game in 20 minutes, 5 rebounds, 0.9 blocks, 0.6 steals, was the only player on the team to shoot over 50%. So I think he's going to put his hat in the ring as well for that surprise player of the year spot. Jalen Johnson here in 29 and a half minutes a game, averaged 9 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, a little over, still a little under a block, and shot just 40% from the field. This is the first player that's going to be in the running for disappointment of the year. I thought Jalen Johnson had a shot to be a long-term starter for us maybe after year one. He wasn't super great, but I think he was better than he was this year, if you ask me. And I don't have the stats to back it up. I don't know what he averaged last year. I think it was actually pretty similar. I think he just shot it better. Zaire Williams was somebody who at one point I think was in the surprise player of the year running. He didn't continue his hot streak though. Once we started him and his 37 games started, his production went way down, and I think it kind of took him out of that surprise player of the year race. But I still like him very much as somebody who can come off the bench for us next year. I just don't think starting was wise. Duncan Robinson should have been playing more for us this year. He ended up not doing great, but like when we watch the episodes, this dude just drains threes all the time. But he's outraged at us, and he has a team option. I don't know if we're gonna pick that up. I wish you could see what his badge regression, because one thing he still does offer is a really good mentor, just because of all these badges that he has. But they regressed a lot after last season. I imagine they were going to regress even more going into this next season, so who knows how good of a mentor he will be. But yeah, wasn't playing, and he ended the year pretty poorly, because I remember him shooting a lot better than this the last time I checked. It looks like he had a bad stretch to end the year. Moses Moody is a guy who's really solid. I think he was let's see, he was 4th on the whole team in terms of shooting percentage. He just doesn't shoot it all that often and doesn't do a ton else other than his scoring. He plays pretty solid defense, just doesn't show up a ton in the box stats. Josh Shelton, somebody that we benched very early on in the season. He got another stint of playing time when Patrick Baldwin got hurt for 5 games, and it looks like he did pretty good because his shooting is up at 48%, but he's somebody that I do not want to bring back. He just takes too many shots and he's not very good. Devin Livingston is the other player alongside Jalen Johnson that is in the running for disappointment of the year. And in fact, I'm not even going to say in the running. I'm just going to tell you guys right now, Devin Livingston is the disappointing player of the year. He is on a 1+1. We are not bringing him back. And because we're not bringing him back, I'm not actually going to lower his potential, because, you know, I kind of like the storyline where it didn't work out for us, but he actually went on and had a better career somewhere else. And it was just, you know, his problem was with us and not necessarily with his own development. So if disappointment of the year is about to be like off the team, I don't really care to lower his potential. If we were to bring him back, he would be -3 potential. But like I said, we're going to let him go, test the open market, and go somewhere else. And Wilson Fisher here, just 5.4 points per game, 2.6 assists, a steal, shot 42%, and would like to see him become a better playmaker. Shot very solidly from 3 on just 1 attempt per game. Would like to see him become a better passer. We had Rubio mentor him in the passing, so hopefully he'll get some good playmaking badges going into next year. Because he's, unless we draft a starting point guard in the draft, likely starting at point guard for us next year, which is a scary thought because he's not the most productive player. We'll just say that. Rubio played nothing for our team. These are from before the trade, and then Lewis didn't play at all. Now, I want to talk about some advanced stats as well, kind of see who led us in various categories, and then I'll announce our surprise player of the year. AC Stevens was the best PER man on the team with Patrick Baldwin behind him. You know, the top 3 surprise player of the year candidates are the top 3 here. Efficiency, Stevens leads us again with just 4 players in double digits. Game score, 2 players in double digits, and Sidney Lowry actually led us here. And taking a look at what this is, how impressive a player's individual performances are, 10 is considered average. So 2 players was considered above average impressive performances, I guess. True shooting percent, Moses Moody led us here. I just wish he would shoot more. Maybe I have to increase his touches tendency. I don't like to touch any of the other tendencies, but maybe if we give him a better touch tendency, he'll shoot more. Shelton was actually second for us here, which is funny. Baldwin was third, and we see Stevens is pretty far down here. Effective field goal percentage, Moody leads us again. Rebound rate, Stevens led us here. No surprise with Jalen Johnson and Thorpe being the other guys here. Livingston actually led us in assist rate, and his passing was never my problem with him. It was the fact that he could only pass. And his passing was good, but it wasn't so good that it made up for the fact that he couldn't do anything else. Turnover ratio. Don't like seeing Wilson Fisher lead us here, but not a great passing point guard. Again, hopefully the mentorship we had with Rubio will help him with that going into next year. Pure point rating. Duncan Robinson being second here is actually kind of funny. Probably because of his small sample size, if I'm being honest. Possessions, Lowry led us here. That's what I like to see. Stevens behind him. That's also what I like to see. And then a pretty big drop off with Thorpe, Johnson, and Bruce Brown. Usage rate. Lowry had the highest at 24.8. Wouldn't mind seeing that improve going into the next year, but he wasn't so efficient that I'm mad that it wasn't higher this year. Very excited to see in what will be 2 episodes what his year 2 progression will look like. Baldwin and Livingston, the only other guys even reaching 21%. Estimated wins added. Now, this is a very good stat. I love this stat. Just shows you how many wins this guy got for your team above a replacement level center. So they're saying, like, if we didn't have AC Stevens as our starting center and we had a replacement level center, we would have won 5.6 less games this year, which is pretty nuts. Sidney Lowry, 4.1, was second in there, and Patrick Baldwin Jr. at 3.4. And because AC Stevens happened to lead us in a lot of these kind of one-size-fits-all metrics, he will be the surprise player of the year winner, and he will get +3 to his potential ahead of his second season. Points per weighted shot, Moses Moody was the only one above 1.1. So not great for the team. But, you know, this team being not great can't really come to the surprise of anybody, as we have officially, as of this episode, become the worst team in the history of professional basketball. Last thing we will do in this episode is take a look at the team stats. Ended up winning 11 less games than the Bucks, who will have the number 2 odds, but they won't have their pick, which is very unfortunate for them. Points per game wise, lowest in the league by 4 points. Points allowed per game, highest in the league by only 0.8 though, but then there's a pretty big drop off after the Clippers. And speaking of the Clippers, we have their first round pick next year. Where are they at? They had the 3rd worst record in the league, and we have their pick next year. I knew it was a good pick for Jaden Hardy, but I didn't think it was that good. We might have 2 top 5 picks next year. Unless for some reason our team goes wild and goes from the worst team ever to a good team. Don't see that happening. By far the worst differential in the league by a whopping 6.6. In terms of getting shots up, we shot the 3rd fewest times in the league, and we're going to have the worst percentage. In terms of 3-point attempts, we got a decent amount up, pretty average in the league, but when we shot them, we were the 2nd worst in the league at doing it. Getting to the line, we were kind of close to average. We were just in the bottom 10, just barely. Sonics were the worst. In terms of hitting our free throws, we were the worst. I imagine us being the worst is going to be a pretty common thing here. We weren't the worst in defensive rebounding though, but we were not great. Worst rebounds, 4th worst assists. About 6 or 7 down in steals. Blocks per game, worst in the league at it. Turnovers per game, 6th worst. Fouls per game, I don't really care. Those are points in the paint. We got no points in the paint. Bench. We weren't super bad in bench. We were pretty average in the bench. The bench percentage, I assume we're going to be pretty high in. Not really. Sonics led us there. We're top 10 in our bench percentage. We held opponents less than 50%, but that was 2 percentage points higher than the next worst team. Teams shot a bunch of threes against us, and when they did, they hit them at the highest rates. And there you have it. This team was awful. I am very, very excited to improve it. And of course, we've got the lottery and the draft preview coming up next episode, and then we'll finally have a chance to do so. And those episodes are coming out soon, and I will see you then.